What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So now that we've had some time to process the roller coaster that was Dragon Ball Daima, I wanted to go back and rewatch the series that most fans compared it to and see if my opinion on it has changed at all. That series is none other than Dragon Ball GT. Alright, so Dragon Ball GT. Typically when you bring up the series, you're either going to get bombarded with people who absolutely hate it with every fiber of their being, or you're going to get a passionate group of fans who will swear that it's a great series that still holds up to this day. Now, I for one am just somebody who appreciates any form of Dragon Ball. Well, almost every form of Dragon Ball. In the end, it's just Dragon Ball, and I love it. But I've always looked at GT as that awkward friend in the corner. Like, I don't necessarily hate him or anything, but I don't really hang out with him much either. He's just there.
What about Smiley McGee over there?
Hello.
So going back and watching GT all over again was quite the experience. And I have to say, for the most part, I actually really enjoyed it. So let's just get it out of the way. After the first 3 or 4 episodes, it does not hold up well at all in the first arc. Now, I understand in the beginning they were trying to go for a more classic Dragon Ball feel with the adventure aspect and everything, and I totally get that as someone who holds the original Dragon Ball at the top of the pedestal. However, much like the show itself, it has great ideas but poor execution in a lot of places. I found myself halfway through the first arc starting to immediately lose steam and want to just skip to the baby arc. And maybe that's just because I already knew that the baby arc was the best in the entire series and arguably a top 5 arc in all of Dragon Ball. But I think it just had to do with the fact that the pacing was just atrocious. Now, let's compare that with the beginning of OG Dragon Ball in the first arc, the Pilaf Saga. As most of you know, the Pilaf Saga feels a lot different than the Dragon Ball we know and love today, and pretty much feels like a comedy when you're watching it. Which makes sense considering Akira Toriyama wrote gag manga before Dragon Ball, so naturally it's going to find its way into it. And it still does in later series, because he was always a comedy writer first and an action writer second. However, when we go back and watch it today, it doesn't feel as slow and out of place as the Black Star Saga does. The saga knows it's trying to be a gag manga and feels so much more natural despite there being some really funny but pretty outlandish and outdated comedy. But when comparing it to the Black Star Saga and their attempt to capture the same feeling, it almost feels like it's trying too hard and doesn't necessarily know whether it wants to be OG Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. Identity and feeling is everything in a series, and Dragon Ball GT has a serious identity issue. Now, I know it sounds like I'm really dogging on GT right now, especially since I said for the most part I enjoyed it. So, let me get to the stuff that I actually enjoyed. One thing I always appreciated about Dragon Ball GT, and especially when comparing it what most people consider the main continuity, Dragon Ball Super, is that Goku in GT feels like a much more natural progression of his character than in Dragon Ball Super. Even though Goku has been turned into a kid, you still have those moments when he stands stoically and wastes no time in getting to business when shit gets real. Much like an original Dragon Ball Z. He feels like a true master of martial arts and a real mentor to those around him. The same goes for other characters such as Vegeta, who has shed his Saiyan attire and now wears Earth clothing. He has moments in the show where he truly feels and sees himself more as an Earthling now, but still in true Vegeta fashion takes pride in his heritage. Everything just feels like a natural progression, despite the story being lackluster. When you watch these characters, you know these are the same people from the previous series. I like a lot of things about Super, but in a lot of ways, characters just feel out of place in so many situations, like Goku being too stupid and Vegeta for some reason not wanting to do fusion, despite having done it plenty of times before. It's just odd. Oh yeah, and speaking of natural progressions, let's talk about Super Saiyan 4 real quick. Super Saiyan 4 is still the greatest and most original transformation in all of Dragon Ball, and I will go to my grave with that. The idea of a Saiyan harnessing the power of a great ape and utilizing it in the form of the Super Saiyan, with a more primal look, is the perfect progression. Much like the original concept of Super Saiyan, it's about harnessing that primal anger and unleashing it into the ultimate form of power and strength. It stays true to the original lore of the Saiyans, and let's just be honest here, it looks absolutely badass. I, like many people, lost my mind when they brought it into Dragon Ball Daima. Alright, so let's talk villains here. Besides the Black Star Saga, and let's be real here, Super 17, Baby and Omega Shenron are fantastic Dragon Ball villains. And I think the big reason behind that is because both villains are the product of our heroes' past mistakes. Like, Baby is the parasite created by the Tuffles, the race in which the Saiyans wiped out and took control of, renaming their homeworld planet Vegeta. And Omega Shenron is all the negative energy stored up in the Dragon Balls from overuse in the past. And by the way, that idea of overuse of Dragon Balls is just such a good concept that I really hope that they bring back in the mainline continuity, because that is one of the biggest flaws in the franchise in my personal opinion. Anyways, besides that, these villains and battles have actual weight behind them and stakes. Like, sure, the Black Star Saga, like, the stakes were the Earth blowing up if they didn't find all 7 Dragon Balls in time. But, like, you never felt like they weren't going to accomplish that because the tone of the saga was just so silly. And as far as Super 17 is concerned, like, again, cool concept, poor execution. Like, it's heartbreaking to see Krillin killed off the way he was, but besides that, the whole premise just felt out of place and random. Like, almost like they didn't finish writing it. When I was watching it, I felt like almost how you feel when you watch a non-canon Dragon Ball Z movie. Like, there's cool stuff going on, but you kind of have to turn off your brain to enjoy it and not overthink it as far as continuity goes. Yeah, anyways, let's wrap all this up and talk about the ending. I think Dragon Ball GT's ending is pretty much universally appreciated and loved, much like Super Saiyan 4. Like, even if you aren't a fan of Dragon Ball GT, it's literally the equivalent of the cowboy riding off into the sunset after saving the day, never to be seen again, and only spoken of in stories and legends. Like, the sight of Goku resting on Shenron as they ride off completely at peace is just such a beautiful thing to see. After watching Goku through 3 different series save the Earth time and time again, taking punch after punch, blast after blast, finally rest and feel at peace is just so fitting and satisfying to watch. It's like when you know that one person who's worked their whole life, never had a moment's rest, finally achieved their goal, and announces their retirement to finally enjoy the fruits of their labor. It's just a beautiful thing to see, and in an odd way, in my opinion, Dragon Ball GT's strongest moment. So with that, I have to say, despite its flaws, I still really enjoy Dragon Ball GT. Like, when I was finished, I even thought to myself that this still might be a better continuity than what we have right now with Super, and I'm not even going to get into that discussion. Like I said, I just enjoy any type of Dragon Ball, and personally, I think it's better to view Dragon Ball at this point as a choose-your-own-adventure style anime rather than argue about canon and continuity and all that stuff, because everybody has their version of Dragon Ball in the end. And everybody has their view of what is the best direction for the franchise and all that stuff, whether you think it's Daima, GT, Super, whatever it may be, you know? But in the end, it doesn't matter. We all love the same franchise, and we're all still supporting this wonderful franchise. It's not worth arguing about, guys, you know? I mean, just enjoy what we got, and honestly, I'm just grateful that we have, like, the amount of content that we even have for Dragon Ball at this point. I mean, considering the fact that it ended, you know, what, 20, 30 years ago or whatever it was? I mean, it's insane, you know? And there's still so many stories to tell with this franchise, and there's, you know, I'm just grateful that we even just have the opportunity to have different timelines. I think it's just so cool. It's, you know, not a lot of, like, I know, like, people get aggravated over canon and continuity and stuff like that, and I understand that in some ways, like, you know, it does bother me a little bit, you know, but it's like, it's Dragon Ball, man, enjoy it, you know? It's just, don't overthink it. It really is just as simple as that. Don't overthink it. Just enjoy it. Anyways, guys, that'll do it for today's video. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button along with the notification bell to stay updated on when new content like this drops. And I will see you in the next video. See ya.